Alicia Cramer is an internationally recognized business mindset expert who specializes in helping business owners quickly shift their subconscious blocks so they can create more money, success, and fulfillment. She has been referred to as the go-to hypnotherapist for entrepreneurs and has been helping thousands of people over the last decade break through self-imposed limitations and achieve their personal and professional goals. Let's find out what makes Alicia so buzzworthy. Welcome to the show, Alicia. How you doing today?
I'm great.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to seeing what we're get into.
Yes, we were talking about the predictable unpredictability of Michael Buzinski, right? Early in the green room there. It's been a minute. I think the last time we had you on the show wasn't this show. It was a different show. I think you were on the You Are Buzzworthy show.
That means that we've been around a while.
You know, my interview, I call this like my peer interview show, right? I have the Buzzworthy marketing show where I bring in like business, quasi business celebrities ish, and then sometimes I even do monologues. This season, I brought in my COO to do kind of well, the two of us were kind of doing a duet of conversation, but now we're going to actually co-host with some of the folks we're going to have on, like Mike McAllowitz and Gino Wickman. Gino Wickman's co-author. I'm looking at my notes. Rub Dubé, I guess that's his name. All right. They co-authored a book called Shine. And then Alan Dibb, he just released his lean marketing book. Mike McAllowitz just released All In. So lots of those types of folks and whatnot. This one right here, this is my fun one. This is where I get to just talk to awesome people about the awesomeness they do. So the last time we were talking about the fact that, you know, some people look at what you do as like, oh, you've always done it that way. But, you know, we were talking about the fact that we come through these iterations of our business. So let's give the listeners just a little bit of insight of like, what is the current iteration of Alicia Cramer?
Well, if you Google me, you're going to find that the iteration doesn't actually seem like it changes all that much, because really when it comes down to it, I'm helping business owners. Can I swear? Is that okay to swear?
Yes, you can do whatever you want.
I help business owners unfuck themselves. So like what we were talking about. Now, yes, I'm a certified hypnotherapist. Yes, I'm a mindset coach. I'm trained in a lot of different modalities, been doing business for a long time. I get it. I've been in business development, so I understand that side of business. I've been a serial entrepreneur, so I understand what's going on. But the interesting thing is that even though I would call myself, for lack of a better term, a business mindset coach, a lot of what I'm doing with my clients is not even business related. It's all the other stuff that's messed up in their life. Like we were talking about, you know, I'm not getting along with my spouse, or I'm having problems with my teenager, or I have, you know, I'm secretly, I'm a closet alcoholic, or I'm cheating on my wife. It's like, okay, well, we gotta fix that stuff, because it's really messing up your life. You're not happy, you're stressed, you have all sorts of self-esteem issues, and
ulcers.
all of those things affect us as business owners. And it's all of the childhood issues. You know, you were picked on, you were bullied, your sibling just always made you feel inadequate. Like all that stuff adversely affects us in our business, how we feel about ourselves, our self-image, how we perform, just how we feel about life. And so everything that I do, whether it's one-on-one with clients or it's inside of my academy, is all about how do we actually resolve those things? How do we get into the subconscious mind and fix the shit that's wrong, so that we can create the us that feels like we're on our path, we're good with ourselves. We
Mm-hmm.
feel confident. We feel, we joked, I said, I talked to a colleague, and she's like, "Oh my God, you're so consistent. I don't have that kind of consistency. But these are success traits that in many cases we need to relearn or learn for the first time ever. We need
Mm.
to adopt the mindset of the successful individual that we want to be and need to be if we're going to actually achieve our goals."
100%. And I think that all of that work, I mean, who you are as a person affects what your business does. As if you're the CEO or the COO, anybody in the leadership position, period. So if you're having problems and at home and you're distracted in business at home, then your business is going to be a distracted mess as well because you're not focused. And if you can't focus, your business can't focus because everybody's getting their focus from you, right? Everybody's looking at you as the person who says, well, you know where we're going, right? And I remember when I was going through my transition from having a creative agency to a marketing firm, and it was a tough time for me because I had finally gotten over all of my uh, imposter syndrome. And I'd finally felt like I had arrived, and people respected me as a business owner. People respected me as a marketer. People came to me for advice, dot, dot, dot. And then my team, as I was getting disfranchised with being in the business I think my team like subconsciously smelled it or something, because then they started turning on the concept of the company, but they did it in a way of that there's something wrong with you, Buzz, not the business. Right. And so they were picking up a signal that they didn't understand. And so they just kind of morphed it into, well, maybe our leader is not as strong and resolute as he should be. And so then all that questioning comes in, which then feeds my right back into me falling into my imposter syndrome. Oh, maybe I haven't arrived. Maybe I haven't done all these things. And it's so weird the last 5 years of like really spending more time on my EQ and my own health and happiness and marriage and all those things, and putting that first has actually helped my business be 7 times more profitable, have at least 5 times more time for myself, more bandwidth for myself, taking weekends off, not worrying about it. I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm always thinking about it. My wife says, like, you're never off. I was like, well, technically, yes. If I'm not having to be in the office tapping or talking or anything like that, I'm done. I'm off, right? I don't have to be on. So I think that what you're doing is it's what has to be done, because if they're messed up in anything in part of their life, that's messing up their business.
Yeah.
So when you finally do get them in that space where they're like, okay, I am ready to be a leader. Like they have finally accepted that responsibility, if you will, of being a leader in their personal life so that they can be a good leader in their business life. Is that fair to say?
Yeah,
Like that's what,
definitely. You
so,
you can't have one without the other. Because just like what you said, we subconsciously can sense other people's bullshit. We can sense when they're incongruent. And
mm-hmm,
we may not even be able to articulate it. We may not even be able to
mm-hmm,
say, "Hey, I can tell that he doesn't believe in himself," or
mm-hmm,
that something's going on in his personal life that's pulling him off his A game.
mm-hmm,
But we're all interacting at that subconscious level. We're all feeding back off of what the other person is projecting. And really, if you look at it, it makes a lot of sense. We can see it. You can look at someone who is an exceptional leader in their industry, and they've got a loyal support system, a loyal team, they have loyal followers. Well, how does that happen? Why is it that some people just naturally create that? They
mm-hmm,
naturally create success. And
mm-hmm,
other people may have really good intentions, but there's a mismatch. Something's not quite clicking. And
mm-hmm,
when you really start to get into the self-image of that leader, who they believe themselves to be is what they project out. What we
mm-hmm,
believe is what we see all around us.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got to take ownership of that, because some of us, we'll just work ourselves to death trying to overcompensate for the old limiting beliefs, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not working. And
Mm-hmm.
then you got to take a step back and you just say, okay, well, how much longer am I going to do this? Like, clearly it is not working. Um, and that's why you'll hear, people say, I had to work on myself. And, it's
Mm-hmm.
interesting too, because there's so much like taboo around getting help. Like, it's okay to hire the marketing agency, because that doesn't mean that I'm fucked up, right? Right?
You think that I remember in the 80s, nobody talked about like getting help, right? And even in the 90s, I think it was still like the Xers as an Xer, I like you didn't worry about it. Like it was like whatever that is, you'll figure it out, right? But you still think today that like the millennial leaders, I mean, I think the extras, yes, I think you have to pull them through. You have to like pulling teeth with them to get them to talk about their feelings and stuff like that. Sometimes I know the boomers definitely have a hard time with it comparatively, but you think the millennial leaders are having that same problem?
it it's not as general as you'd think, because
Hmm.
a lot of it has to do with what people heard from their parents,
Mm.
or their other influences. So here's what I see, and I'm at the tail end, but I'm still Generation X. So what I found is people have these different conceptions of what personal development actually means. For some people, their association is that means there's something wrong with me. And if someone finds out that I'm working on myself, then they're going to know that I'm a loser, I'm a failure, I'm not good enough, I'm whatever, right?
Mm.
I'm defective.
Hmm.
But then you have other people, and I see this a lot now, because the internet is giving us the ability to follow some really successful entrepreneurs who are out there just crushing it and creating this massive following, and a lot of them are saying, I do my personal development work, I
Mm-hmm.
do my inner growth work, I've worked with a coach, I work with mentors. That's what you
Mm-hmm.
have to do in order to become successful. Um, whereas back in, even 10, 20 years ago, personal development just meant something is fucked up with me. I gotta
Hmm.
I gotta fix something. Not, I'm doing this because I'm fucking awesome and I'm a badass entrepreneur and I'm going to be at, in the top 1%. Where
Mm-hmm.
now there's sort of a shift where people are recognizing, no, it's a badge of honor to say, hey, I overcame my imposter syndrome. I had it. It's a real thing, and I
Mm-hmm.
worked with this person, and it's like a badge of honor. But
Mm-hmm.
over all the years that I've been doing this, I found that in many cases, the individuals who have this sort of self-image of, I've got it all together, I can handle it all myself. Those are the ones that have the hardest time with it. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, you've got the people who are, they have the self-image like, I'm such a freaking mess that I need someone to fix all of these things. And
Mm-hmm.
interestingly enough, as someone who is in the personal development industry, and I see a lot of like my colleagues who are also like EFT practitioners, and they do different types of healing modalities, and like they're more spiritually oriented, they oftentimes are the ones who are most stuck in the fixing it. And so there's got to be this right balance between, no, I'm pretty kick ass. I can do this. Yes, I got some wacky shit going on in my mind. I'm going to deal with that because
Mm-hmm.
I'm badass, not
Mm-hmm.
because I'm broken.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think you hit on a really good note there, though, and it kind of passed over. So I want to make sure that that people heard it. Is that you have, when you're fixing things, there's some people who get stuck in always being fixing, the perfectionists, if you will. In marketing, it happens all the time. They won't launch anything until they think it's perfect. And I keep telling people, we just launched our new website, buzzworthy.biz, yesterday. I'm still finding stuff that's not right with it. And I knew it wasn't perfect, right? Because you don't launch a perfect website, and people will never be perfect. So being okay with wherever, being good enough, being okay with being good enough is what I'm trying to say there. So being okay with being good enough to where you're at right now is healthy, right? Like, I am good enough to do what we're doing right now. And as I approach the next shell that I must shed to become the next person, to get to the next echelon, to the next step, however you want to put it, we'll deal with it tomorrow. But right now, I got me. Right now, this is how I am, and I am well equipped to handle it today. And I just think that a lot of people they wait until that moment of like, oh, now I feel there. Once I have this certification, once I'm retired, once I'm this, once someday, right? It's all that someday isms that keep like dragging people from just taking some type of action and
Yeah.
realizing that, wow, this wasn't as bad as the fear of failure is more painful than the actual doing and failing. People work themselves up with that. How do you
Yeah.
get people through that blockade, if you will?
There's there's a process to it, because we have to uncover what we're actually afraid of. It's very
Mm,
surface level to just say, I'm afraid of failure. That's where people get stuck. They're like, I can't do it. I'm afraid of failure. I can't do it. I'm a perfectionist. I can't do it because, and they put this nice little convenient BS label on it. We have to
mhm,
actually go in there and we have to say, okay, what is it that you're really afraid of?
mhm,
That is going to allow us to actually clean up that deep subconscious fear. when we
mm,
when we get in there and we actually are able to resolve the real fear, then you're still gonna feel some occasional self-doubt, or even some, trepidation, or whatever. You're still occasionally gonna feel some of those negative feelings, but you'll notice that in the areas where you're not tripping over some gigantic self-imposed limiting block, you're
mm,
gonna just feel compelled to move forward, even if there is a little bit of doubt or a little bit of uncertainty or a lack of certain clarity. You feel like, I'm ready enough to take this step. And so you just are compelled to keep moving forward. But when we have
mm.
the unresolved fear, that's when we keep coming head to head with the perfectly justifiable excuse why we can't, it won't work. And that's what we have to get to within the individual, because when we shift that's when it no longer becomes a legitimate obstacle.
What's the first step of uncovering the why people are afraid to take action?
This is going to require a tremendous amount of self-honesty and courage to face the real fear. So the process oftentimes, like I said, it starts at the more superficial level. And the mind, will just say, as a little caveat here, the mind is very tricky, because your subconscious mind is literally, its job is to form a conclusion about what is safe to keep you alive, and then lock that in, and it's not to deviate from that. Okay? So anytime we try, the subconscious mind has found really effective ways to distract us. It says, no, look over here. This is actually where your issue is. It's, don't look over here. Okay. So we have to be very, very self disciplined to go to the real fear. And you start by just examining that surface level fear. You say, is this really what's going on here? And you can actually ask yourself questions to get deeper. So, an example would be, right, I'm afraid of failure. Okay. So, What if I do fail? What does that mean? What does that mean about me? What does it mean about me if I'm a failure? Now your mind is going to give you some answers, but don't stop there. Okay. So your mind is going to say something cute like, oh, see, everybody from high school is just going to know that they were right about you, that you really are a loser. And you were like, oh, that hurts a little bit. It doesn't hurt a lot. That's not the real root cause. You got to keep going. So if I fail and everyone in high school sees on social media that I'm not the successful person that I've pretended to be all these years, then what? Then what? What bad thing is going to happen? You got to keep going. And at some point, you're going to click on something and it's going to hurt. And you're going to know, you're going to be like, there is that fucking belief. There it is right there. Because you feel it. You're like, damn, I do believe that about myself. I am still jaded about that thing that happened all those years ago. And when you do that, you also are able to see how irrational it is. That's when the shift can happen. And sometimes you do have to do a little bit deeper healing work, because if there really is a legitimate trauma, that is going to be like a cellular thing where once you key into that, you're like, whoa, this one is painful. And sometimes you have to do some different processes. Obviously, I'm an advocate for hypnosis and EFT and energy releasing processes, because these things really help us clean that stuff out. We've all been blindsided in life by somebody who we trusted, or somebody said something that just took the wind out of our sails. We were betrayed by someone. And those things can really create some deep rooted, self-destructive, self-limiting beliefs that we spend our entire adult life trying to overcompensate for, wondering why that gnawing, nagging pain just won't go away. Sometimes you do need a little extra help to work through those things. But in a lot of cases, our fears, we can just start shifting them, bam, 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 if we're willing to be really honest with ourselves and really look at what it is that we're so afraid of, what it is that we're so resistant to.